instead. So
there's really no good way to do this. Do you guys like it like this or like this?
I like it like that. Yeah, this way.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Right. Oh, he's going now. He's moving. God almighty. Oh, he's coming back. Right, just about when I was to start. All right. Okay. Rightio. So, where's God almighty. Paul, have you come back, Spencer?
Like herding cats.
I have studio issues here.
Oh God almighty. Right. Are we ready?
The sun's shining right in my eyeball.
Rightio. Right. So, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic Roundtable Show. We record this live every Friday around 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. This is episode 624, recorded on the Friday, the 27th of August, 2021. Got a great selection of stories, got a great panel. It should be a great show. It's going to be in a slightly different format, which I think you're going to love. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves, and then we'll be straight into the first stories. First of all, Spencer, Uncle Spencer, the most hated man on Automatic's hit list.
That is not true, and that hurts my feelings.
Yeah, I bet it does. You have replaced Alton.
Really? I'm going to have a tough time this weekend. Now you've set my karmic Zen.
They've actually got you. They actually got you in the mill place. They've got a dartboard and they've got a picture of you, and they throw arrows at you. Actually,
you've presented my ego with a Machiavellian predicament. Is it better to be loved or hated?
Exactly. So, can you introduce yourself, Spencer?
Spencer Foreman from, today I guess it's WP Launchify or launchflows.com.
That's great. And we've got the only Andrew Palmer with us. Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Andrew Palmer, and you can find me on thisisandrewpalmer.com.
That's right. I've got my friend, long-time friend and associate, John Locke. John, would you like to introduce yourself?
John from lockdownseo.com.
And we've got a returning guest, friend of the show and supporter, Vito. Vito, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Vito. I'm the founder of Atarim.io. We're a platform that helps web agencies and freelancers systemize their workflow and collaborate with clients.
And it's a great platform, and they're doing amazing things over there. So let's go straight into it. First of all, I've got to talk about my sponsor, Castos, my major sponsor. Basically, if you're looking to get into podcasting for yourself or for clients, you need a good platform. We got another. Somebody else. She's gone. Can you tell her that she can come back? Where's she gone? I've got. Sorry. She's back again. That's good. Right. There you go. Add to the stream. Right. I'm talking about Castos. Basically, you need a podcasting platform, and Castos is the best in market. I moved to them about 9 months ago. I've been really delighted with them. You need to go over and have a look at what they've got to offer. If you go to WP-Tonic newsletter, they are offering a unique special offer just for the tribe. Basically, for the first 6 months of your plan, you get it at half price, and that's only offered to the WP-Tonic tribe. So go over to WP-Tonic newsletter, and you'll be able to see that special offer, and also sign up for our newsletter. You'll be supporting the tribe. So I'm going to let Heather quickly introduce herself because she's a little bit late. Heather, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Heather Wild-Renzi. I am the Digital Solutions Lead at The Difference. Sorry for being late.
No, ladies' prerogative. So off we go. The first story, it's a two-parter, and they're kind of linked. So the first part of this two-parter is WordPress Classic Editor support extended for at least another year. And the second part is the cost of WordPress plugins on the performance of the editor. So let's start with Uncle Spencer. Let's start they're kind of linked, aren't they? Which of these two stories do you think was the most interesting to start off with, Spencer?
Well, I don't know about the performance part for the moment, but I'm interested in the first story primarily because I did a little experimenting as part of this LaunchFlow's Gutenberg stuff. And what we found out, hi, John, is that, first of all, many people wouldn't know this, but now I'm bringing it to your attention to be like, oh, you're right. WooCommerce does not support Gutenberg blocks for product pages, which if you're a WooCommerce user, it's interesting because you find yourself in a weird predicament because Classic Editor suddenly shows up when you're least expecting it. And for me, I wanted to make Gutenberg work with the products pages because that's one of our features of having a product checkout. So the idea of having a plugin that forces or allows you control over Classic Editor is really quite important, I think, for everybody, whether you thought you needed it or not, because there will be situations imposed upon you very shortly where did I leave my car keys? Like, this page looks very different than I expected it. And I know because, for example, like Heather has suggested she's not too fond of Gutenberg yet, that there will be situations where Gutenberg is going to start showing up in bad or unexpected ways, like the widgets area. Now, there's a second plugin. I don't know if you knew about that is called Classic Widgets, which is a sort of stepchild of the Classic plugin that allows you to push forward the day you switch over and stop using the Gutenberg widgets. Why is that important? Well, because lots of plugins like dynamic content widgets or dynamic sidebars and all these things rely upon the old Classic widget or the old Classic editor. And you can kind of see, without me going farther, there is a chain of reliances that is not so simple to just ignore by saying we're taking away Classic.
Yeah. So, Vito, what did you think?
I think that I think there's a way to do a transition, and I think this is the right way, really, because the way that these markets work is that you have like the early adopters, and any market you have early adopters, and then you have the followers, and you have to have a certain amount of market share in order for things to tip the scale and get to a place where it's adopted widely. So this allows all of the people that are not early adopters to just delay that decision, wait things out. The early adopters are usually they get burnt by bugs, by by the evolution, the early evolution of a product, but they take this into account. Now the thing here is that it's been 3 years already. And I didn't realize that until I read this article. It's been 3 years since this project has started, which is a long time. It's a lot of time to have a lot of people working on something. Like, fine, if you're one developer trying to develop a plugin for 3 years, I get it. But like full-on teams for 3 years, you can make a whole lot of progress with the backing of a company.
You would have thought so, wouldn't you, with an army? But there we go. Jonathan Ward has joined us. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself, Jonathan, and then comment on this story?
Thank you, Jonathan. Excellent name. I've been in WordPress for about 16 years, and I feel like I'm just getting started.
Right. So what's your comment on this story, Jonathan?
There's two things. First, it's great that we're continuing. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? Continue to support the Classic Editor and the choices that people have. I'd be really curious, and I'm perfectly fine that we don't know this. I'd be really curious to know actual usage versus installations at this point in the game, because a lot of folks just keep a plugin installed, right? That doesn't mean they're necessarily using it. So I don't think I'll ever get to know that, but it's something I'm curious about. And I'm just happy to see that we're continuing to back it up. It was great to see Josefa and getting them have an answer prompt to it. So people have choice in WordPress. That's part of what makes it great.
Yep. Heather, what do you think of these two stories? Any one particular one you want to comment on?
I think that plugins are difficult to create. Every time you add a new plugin, it does increase load time, and it takes a while to get them right. So, and also I'm not a fan of Gutenberg. So coming up with the right balance of creating a plugin that works well, that works with the latest features of whatever WordPress version you have right now, like including Gutenberg blocks. I mean, I understand where the friction is with people. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy that they're still supporting Classic Editor because I get it. I mean, I get that these plugin designers are trying to appeal to the mass market, to try to keep up with WordPress, but they're not always going to be able to do it.
And the finishing remark, over to my friend John. What do you think of these two stories and what we're finding the situation? I was also fascinated with story B about which plugins really affect the editor the most. I thought it was fascinating that one particular one that we discussed last week, John, Yoast, is one of the worst affectors of performance. It's just boggling.
Yeah, it was weird that I think it was Yoast, Jetpack, and was the third one like WooCommerce?
Yes,
Elementor WooCommerce.
Yeah, but there's another part of that story too, where it talks about the block plugins that affect performance too, and some of those affect it quite drastically. On the Classic Editor story, what I found fascinating is a lot of people in the comments section are saying that they don't even feel the end of 2022 is going to be a viable date to end support. And there's something in story 4 as well, and we can circle back to that. But I think there's a lot of people that still don't see this as a fully developed solution. And that's unfortunate, but
I definitely agree with that. I'm in the camp where I still don't think it's ready for prime time, but other people in this panel have a different attitude to that, which is fair enough. On to story 2. Oh God. Facebook releases glimpses of its most popular posts, but we don't learn too much. Well, I think we do actually a little bit. Heather, what do you think of this? The most of this, you know, I think it really shows that really Facebook have no, you know, under the great leadership of Mark Zuckerberg and that witch Sheryl Sandberg, you know. She's even worse than him in some ways. That they've got no intention of modifying their ways, really. What do you reckon, Eva?
Well, first, I would like to take offense on Sheryl Sandberg's behalf that you are automatically calling her a witch. I mean, that's pretty derogatory towards a female in power. I mean, if you're gonna call her a witch, then please at least call Mark Zuckerberg a warlock or something.
Thanks. You're right. He's a total. I apologise if I do, but he is a total warlock. He's a monster.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, like, I mean, there is a persistence in like, women in power are worse than men. That is not true.
Oh no, but in her particular, it's not an attack on female. I just particularly think she's just an awful individual.
All right. No, so I think one of the things about this article that stood out is that Facebook, one, they wanted to show that, like, yes, like our algorithms, we were tuning them, and like in the first quarter, the most popular article was one that was a truthful article. Like, I mean, it was a fact. I mean, but it still was the most popularly shared article about like how like a vaccine didn't work in the way it was supposed to. So like anti-vaxxers were sharing this all over, like, see?
Actually, if you do look in, it was published by a reputable newspaper, but they actually didn't research the story in the depth that was necessary.
Right, but I mean, but that's the thing. It was like it was shared because it was really difficult for their fact checkers to go through it, so it didn't get flagged by the algorithm. So But I mean, something like the Epoch Times is or Epoch News is always going to get flagged because like it's a Chinese propaganda website. So like because they're never going to be publishing anything true. So so I mean that's the thing. Like every article, you have to take it with a grain of salt. And like the thing, I mean, just like one of the problems with one side of the argument versus the other is like the way that people disseminate or understand information. Like there's people that like if you say something one day and then because your information changes you say something the next day, all of a sudden you're a liar to them and you're untrustworthy. Whereas, and I run into that all the time. I'm an engineer. My information will update and therefore I'll give you a different answer the next day. And so people like there's people out there that think I am a liar and untrustworthy because I will update my information.
Actually, Heather, I trust you more than I trust myself.
Yeah, because I will give you, like, I will always say, here's the information I used to make this decision, and therefore my decision is this. Tomorrow, here's the information I used to make this decision, and therefore my information is this. Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm flip-flopping. So
right, there we go. So Andrew, what do you think? Is it just a consequence of, you can't really blame Facebook for what people want to promote the best, but haven't they really built a Frankenstein monster? And one of the reasons for that is that the founder and his chief operating officer just wanted to count the green, and that's the only thing they care about.
Yeah, they're sitting there within their little coven, boiling their little oil, toil, trouble, and whatever. I think whatever social medium you're looking at, whether it's an old-fashioned one like Tumblr or a new one like OnlyFans, or it's all social media. The size that they get will always beget criticism because they're all too powerful. They're making too much money. The people at the top are arseholes. It's just a way of life. And to be honest, all this is kind of washing all over my head. I'm just kind of going, well, I really don't care about what's going on with Facebook because one, it helps me build a business. It helps millions of people keep in contact. It helps hundreds of thousands of businesses promote their businesses for free with a Facebook business page. And I don't really think any kind of analysis of who's looking for what at a particular time in this truncated way is helpful at all. I think it's clickbait in my view. Yeah. I've read it.
Well,
I think it's not that well researched, and it's very US centric.
Yeah, I think it's an attempt for them to kind of placate the criticism on the Hill, the political criticism that's coming their way. So
make it open source, then that'll do. Yeah.
So Vito, do you think the fundamental problem is these platforms in general and their requirement? Obviously, they're there to make money, which is we're all here to make a living and make money, but was it just a consequence of social media platforms in general that you get stories that are really quite damn, when you're talking about vaccination, you're talking about life and death, really, aren't you? So what do you think about this, Vito?
I think it grew to become a beast, like years ago already, to a place where it can't be tamed anymore. It just kind of has its life as a life of its own. You can't monitor all of the posts that are going through Facebook. No one can. Even when they're building and that's why they go down, of course, the route of automation and algorithms and all of those kind of stuff. But we already know that this technology is also not there yet. So I think that this problem is going to be with us for at least 5 to 10 more years until technology catches up with human behavior that caused this problem.
So, Jonathan, is it really a problem of the social media platforms, or are they just a mirror, a tool that just empowers a problem that was there anyway, and through technology it's just been exposed more. So is the platforms themselves just being used as a kicking ball to be kicked around, or is there something specific they're adding to the brew that makes it even more toxic?
My inclination is the former more than the latter. Like I think in general, technology just tends to bring more of what's already there to the surface, right? Like people, when you remove some of the barriers, technology can help remove some inhibitions from people, and they're more likely to say things. That it takes off some of the filters, and then you get, if you optimize for engagement, I think that's probably the heart of some of the difficulty with this. If you optimize for engagement, people tend to naturally filter in, and then you get those bubbles of interests.
Then you get tabloids.
You get tabloids, yes. What I found actually kind of interesting about this piece was looking to see how much of WordPress touched the sites. So one of those was WordPress, obviously. I'm pretty sure the Epoch Times is WordPress. Haven't been able to prove it yet. It looks like a headless instance of WordPress, actually.
All right. Right, John, what's your thoughts? Is it something coherently that these social media platforms add to the brew, or is it just just like technology in general? It's just a magnifying glass. It just enables what's already there.
Yeah, it's a really deep issue, but I think it's more a human issue than it is a technology issue. I think technology is amplifying it. I am familiar with this Facebook top 10 account that they mention in here, where it shows the daily posts that get the most engagement. And usually it's 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 will be not only right wing, but it's kind of the right wing accounts that stir people up, like Fox News and these podcasters that basically stir up this kind of hatred and this roiling emotions where people want to blame minorities for all the problems in the country, or they want to believe that vaccines aren't real and it's some plot to lead the U.S. into communism, or they believe that the election was stolen and Trump is really the president. And then it leads to things like these militias going into the streets, or the Capitol insurrection, which could have been even worse. So I do think Facebook is trying to do PR and distance themselves from this, but this is something that you do see in other platforms like YouTube, where they optimize for engagement. And unfortunately, what makes people engage more with the platform is giving them these salacious stories, which sound good to people when that they already have those kind of thoughts, and they're inclined to believe what these stories are telling them.
That's great. Over to you, Spencer, but I just want to quickly put this to you, Spencer, and get your thoughts on this. When the Gutenberg press became a technology, strange, Gutenberg press, Gutenberg plugin, it was seen as a great thing, Spencer. Now, what could go wrong? You'd be able to print the Bible in native languages, and the common man and woman will be able to read the Bible instead of the priest interpreting the Bible from Latin to the native language. What a great idea. What could go wrong, Spencer? But then they found out that when they distributed that knowledge to people, it led to the European 30-year war, which was one of the most devastating religious wars Europe has ever seen, with the divide of Protestantism to Catholic. Is there a kind of consequence to technology like that?
I mean, we've seen this endless numbers of times, but humans are still fundamentally animals and still work from instincts and from survival instincts and from the amygdala part of our brain instead of the frontal cortex. So we're not thinking through things. We react. We have fear of unknown things or people or colored people or this. But what social media, the printing press, even especially maybe religions over the years have made it possible for those who want power to use that animalistic response of people against our better interest. You take 2 groups of people, 3 groups of people who otherwise would have everything in common, could be cooperative and live in harmony, and you get the powers that be, pit them against each other, because as long as the masses are fighting each other and hate each other and are antagonistic against each other, the elite class of whomever it is, religion, politics, money, and so forth, can go about their business by taking advantage of getting people pitted against each other. That is the history of the human race. And it happens sometimes in the animal kingdom. I mean, you do see like ant colonies go to war and, you know, bee colonies and stuff. But what we're seeing now with like Ben Shapiro, I mean, like anything on the right wing, is that they have this down to a science. It doesn't matter if the topic was A today. If something changes in the wind, tomorrow they'll be saying it's B. And then they won't even account for the fact that they've literally taken the exact opposite opinion, because that's not what their goal is. Their goal is to be whichever is the opposite of the other party. That's it. And if we want to look for how we can improve our world, our life, it's probably impossible, because people without education and people without exposure to other human beings who are different than them look at a television or listen to a radio or read a news report from some, you know, unified kind of opinion. That is their entire view of the world. And then when they meet a brown person or a different religion person or a different belief system person in the real world, they can't believe how similar they are. But if they weren't exposed to that person in real life, then they'll go off and create their own jihad in middle America, which is no different than what goes on in other jihads. It's just, it's got a different symbol and a different, you know, face and name behind it. I find the whole thing tiresome as a 55-year-old, but at the same time, I've come to the realization that it's not easily fixed when we live in a world where Fox News, for example, is allowed to do this and get away with it under the name of entertainment instead of fake journalism. And CNN has their own culprits. But one last thing, and I'm not trying to be super political, but like there's a difference between proactively lying and passively lying. Generally, the left wing wants good for people because helping the masses is their message. In other words, that's their brand. We help everybody. The right wing's message is you're taking away what's rightfully ours, and you should, you know, be afraid of the fact that somebody's coming to get you. And that requires proactively lying. And I think that's where I see the differences here. It bothers me greatly that we allow it to go on, but what are we going to do now? I mean, we're going to turn off Facebook and turn off Fox News? Maybe, but doubtful.
No, right. That's fantastic. Thanks for that. I just thought I'd put that thing. I was thinking about Gutenberg and the press and how it was seen it was going to change society for the better. The word of God was going to be distributed, and the New Jerusalem was going to be built in Europe, and then it just ended up in a 30-year bloodbath where people just slaughtered one another in Central Europe.
Can you imagine if the stuff that even we see today and what's relatively the longest peaceful time in human history, I mean, again, since our last World War, I mean, we have really progressed as humans despite all this. Can you imagine how horrific it must have been even in World War II or World War I or in the earlier days when there wasn't access to both sides of the story? Because like you could live in a little town and the little town leader makes a decision and you go off and kill all of the people that you don't like that weekend. I mean, a pogrom or whatever. That was happening up until the 1960s and 70s, up until Vietnam, but definitely in World War II. So the media has its side effect, which is at least it's out in the open. We may be annoyed by it, but we're seeing it happening. So.
Yeah, but it's still happening in Myanmar.
Yeah,
and it was facilitated by Facebook.
Yeah, of course.
Right, we're going to go for our break. I think we've already had a really great discussion, a discussion which you wouldn't hear anywhere else, I don't think. We'll be back. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. we're coming back. I thought we have had a good discussion. I just want to say thanks for the support of Launchflow. That I also want to point out that if you want to take up the Launchflow product or plugin, which is fantastic, you can go to the WP-Tonic newsletter page, and they've just got a unique special offer just for the tribe. And it's a lifetime deal, and you get a additional amazing discount. Thank you so much, Spencer and Launchflow, for your support of the show. It's much appreciated. So let's go into story 3, the ultimate overview of WordPress block editor for developers in 2021, and it comes from Delicious Brain, a great plugin company, and they do some good blogs. So John, what did you think of this one, John?
Yeah, so a good overview of the history of the block editor so far. Who I thought was Andrew, but it's not our Andrew, it's another Andrew. Here left a comment at the bottom of this, and I thought it was very insightful. They said that the block editor is not their audience. They're like developed for business clients. This whole project is basically to build a competing product to Wix or Squarespace or those types of builders. And the types of clients that this person who left a comment is talking about, they don't want anybody in their organization to be able to like edit stuff and, you know, potentially break it. And they're not, you know, building sites that where that's the key. That's more for people who have a small business where it's like 1 or 2 people, or maybe they're building their own site instead of hiring a developer, or they have a hobby site, or they're just starting a business. And I think that's a very important point, because I've talked to other people who own agencies, and there's some of them that have that same kind of stance. So
yeah, I think thanks for that. Jonathan, how would you respond to that? What did you think of the article?
I love seeing content like this. The Delicious Brain guys do good work, and it's quite detailed. I did not read the article in detail, so that is the extent of my comments on it.
Right, fair enough. At least you've been honest. You're a very honest individual. I always love you on the show. So, Vito, your product, your service is in the helping agencies. How would you respond to John's, insight, and how do you think agencies view the block editor in general?
I agree 100%. When an agency builds a website for a client, they're scared. They really are scared that the client will break it. That creates a whole lot of other complications for agencies. This mindset of being scared that the client is gonna actually wear the shoes and get the shoes dirty is restricting the client from really experiencing what the shoes can do for their basketball play, because they never get to jump on the court. They just look at it from the stands, and that is a shame. And I think that this is, and I haven't really thought about this like this, John. So that's a really good point. But this is really something that is going to make it pretty challenging for agencies to roll this out. And if they do, they're probably going to face what they faced with early page builders. When you were doing those kind of things. Bigger agencies, what they do is they build CPTs, they build custom post types, they do they create like page templates, and they rely on custom fields and really like basic text editors to allow customers or employees of the customers, or like the end users to interact with the website, which I think is a fair use. You would see that in a lot of SaaS tools as well. You don't allow people to completely change the interface of
Well, funny
Facebook,
enough,
or
yeah,
here on
just
StreamYard. You
yeah,
don't move
just
things around.
yeah, I just want to introduce you. I really like the LinkedIn editor, actually, the way that it's been implemented in LinkedIn.
Simple to the point. It's text, images, and that's it. It doesn't allow you to break the frame, but on the other hand, that's what WordPress is for. It allows you to kind of experiment and do things that are outside of the box by implementing different plugins, changing up the design and creating something out of nothing.
Democratizing publishing. That's what WordPress is.
But it really is not the case when you're trying to serve a business and build their own website, or build them a website. You just want them to work. You just want them to leave a comment on the Facebook comments feed.
They actually
to drag the comments all over the page.
They don't want to get involved with all that. Heather, as somebody who's part of the WordPress scene, also you're outside in a way, aren't you, Heather? This Gutenberg, I think it's going to take another year before. It's going to be going on for 4 years now. But what did you think of this article? Really, I'm really going off topic there with that comment, wasn't I?
No, I mean, I think it really gives a full overview, pros and cons. It's really in depth, and it explains all of the. I mean, for somebody coming in that doesn't really understand like what is going on with Gutenberg and how, like, where it's all come from. I mean, it lays it all out, and it explains like why there's people like me that are on one side, why there's people on the other side, why it's taken so long for something to gain traction. So I mean, I think it's like kind of required reading if you're coming in right now.
So, Uncle Spencer, a detailed article. I kind of introduced my own spin to it with Heather, and then you got the comment, the excellent insight from John, and also Vito. What's your own view about the article and what the other presenters have put to us?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really well done article, and the comments were applicable. I think my greater takeaway from this is there isn't really any way to go backwards. So that comments by the gentleman Andrew were well taken. Besides the point, because we here have been whining about why didn't they just hire a team of experts to do this, that, the other thing. It's clearly not the way it's going to go, right? And Justin Tadlock reflected that in his other article that we started the show with, where they're doing what they're doing. They made a bunch of choices along the way, like using React and the fact that it's got the markup mixed with the templating, and they're not object-oriented programming, and they're not enforcing this and dot, 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 dot. Like it's a shit show of stuff band-aided together. But that's really where it started, and that's where it's going to keep going, because it's nearly impossible to abandon that shit show without alienating somebody. So if you're riding on the train of WordPress, you're going to have to walk quickly through a few of the cars, and that's just the way it goes. And there's really not a great alternative, because the one thing that I keep coming back to, even though I'm the biggest critic, apparently, as you say, the most hated person outside of
you are. They are the automatic upper management are list makers, and you're on top of the list, I've been told.
Okay, well, here you go. You only hurt the ones you love. And so if I didn't love Automatic and I didn't love WordPress so much, I wouldn't care enough to waste the breath criticizing them, because I'm here. I make my livelihood at this. I feel like I represent a certain swath of the community and those that make stuff to bring a balanced reporting, fair and balanced reporting to what the reality is. And the reality is, let's not pretend it isn't a shit show. Let's call it a shit show that has brought us all here and will take us into the future. but you got to make choices. And I mean, in fairness, there's still the liberty to make choices. I mean, as we just referred to, you got a switch that turns on and off Classic. You can still use all the old stuff. If you're an agency, it's a bitch because like you've got these problems that are really hard to overcome, but you can overcome them. There's not any other alternative. I mean, quite frankly, I'd love it if there was an open source CMS that competed in any way. But Drupal and Joomla, my God, they're dead and buried long ago, and nobody's even in the same universe. So there it is. Like, you know, it's like a marriage that's been going on for 16 years. I've gone this far. I'm going to stay married.
Yeah. Before I bring Andrew in, I just want to bring Jonathan back. You were getting quite animated about the list. So you think I'm totally unfair towards Automatic? You know, I love you, Jonathan, so you can be totally honest. It's obvious by your actions you feel that I'm being, but I think there's two sides. I think the great leader and some of his cronies are list makers. They are vindictive. They go after people, and they really, really don't like Spencer Forum. He is on top of the most wanted list.
I would be, by the way, there's nothing that would be more gratifying to my ego, and we all know who know me, I have plenty of ego, to be the center of attention of a multi-billion, maybe trillion-dollar company. I would love nothing more than to actually think that Matt Mullenweg even knows my name.
Oh, he knows your name. Well,
like, that would be,
he knows your name.
Gratifying.
I can tell you that now. He knows your bloody name. So, Jonathan, that part, and also, do you think on the technical side, is it fair to call it a shit show?
So, I don't think Spencer's on any such list. Sorry to disappoint you, Spencer, but yeah. No, I don't think it's fair to call it a shit show.
So there is a list.
Yeah, and Denwood is probably on the top
has seen the list.
Well, I'm definitely not popular with them. You know, I've been told certain people will never.
It's in a safe. It's in a safe in a wall in Texas somewhere.
Certain
only a few
people in the
WordPress
WordPress community have told me they consider me and this show to be totally toxic, and they're never going to come.
I have no idea how they could come up with that idea.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know. I think I just say it as it is. So, what technically? What do you? So you don't think it's a bit of a mess then?
It's not trivial what's trying to happen with Gutenberg. I did read the comment, and I found it interesting, Andrew's comment. One of the things that can be difficult in WordPress is it is so big as an ecosystem. It's very easy to lose perspective, right? Like to be right within your sphere of influence and what you care about, and to completely miss a large swath of the population affected by it. Like that is always going to be a challenge in WordPress. And my hope, like, in terms of as we look to the future and things getting better, is we have to find more and more of the overlap, the Venn diagrams, if you will, of so for instance, performance being one of them, right? I think we can all agree as WordPress gets better, it needs to also get faster. So when we see posts like the other one detailing issues with the edit, I was like, oh, okay, that's problematic to me. Like we're going this direction, it should be getting faster, not slower. But for me, when I see really strong comments, like another comment there was like, hey, the classic press, it's growing. I'm sure it is. It's relative though, right? And I try to just be curious enough to continue asking, okay, that's right for that group. And what can I learn from it being right, and try to keep a bigger perspective in mind. And overall, I have a confidence that what Gutenberg represents and the reality today, even with my frustrations, which prop up occasionally, it's going a good direction. So that's my conclusion.
Right, over to you, Andrew. You've been listening to all this comment. What's your view and overview of what?
Well, I like Ian Paulson. You know, I like what these guys do, and they're very forthright and they're good programmers. You know, they put some good stuff together. But the point is, I think everybody misses the point. With respect, I'm going to say that, which I hate saying that, but WordPress is a CMS, right? It's not a website. Was never ever meant to be a website builder. You know, I go back to the old days where we used to build websites out of HTML and whatever, and you know, and even even Microsoft. You know, we were building stuff, and we even Netscape, whatever, you know, years ago. But the point is that it has to now say, right, we are a website building tool, and that the only way that they can do that is have a free option for people to have a page builder, because democratizing publishing, yes, that's fine when it had Classic Builder and that's all you could do, and all you wanted to do was write a blog post and you didn't have any WYSIWYGs going on or things going on and everything like that. But now that you need the block editor, you know, to be able to give it to the normal person that wants to build a website and have $2.99 hosting, right? So they have no choice but to move forward. But those people exist, Jonathan. That's GoDaddy's customers. That's
they do WordPress a real favour.
Every hosting
that scammy company GoDaddy, the elephant killers.
There's hundreds of millions of these people that want to only spend $2.99 a month on a website, and they want it built for them. You know, we know that those people exist. Andrew, whoever he is, he's obviously brilliant because he's got my name, but he's also given some insights of what it, like Vito alluded to. If you are an agency, the idea that somebody can go into the website and change something is literally terrifying, because for a lot of reasons, but the main reason is, if you're a website agency, you're building websites, you have hundreds of websites to look after or potentially have support issues on. And if everybody went into those websites and broke them, your support calls will bankrupt you. I know this for a fact. It nearly bankrupted me when Joomla got hacked and I had 500 websites that I had to repair overnight, and people were screaming legals at me. So the support burden is massive on agencies, whether you're a freelancer, an individual, 5 of you together, a cooperation or whatever. And Gutenberg frightens developers because actually it's really easy to use. I had a customer ring me up. She updated WordPress on her own and she said, my God, I don't know what you've done to the page builder, but it's absolutely brilliant. I can't believe how quickly I'm writing blog posts. And I went, really? What I looked in, and she'd enabled Gutenberg. This is back in the day when it first started, 3 years ago. So there are some people that naturally love Gutenberg, and they're naturally going to love full site editing. And it is the way forward. Yeah. It really is. Yeah. I know, Heather, it is the way forward.
I think you're all right in some ways. Basically, I think I call it modularization. It probably is. It's a Jonathan made up word. It should exist though, shouldn't it? But what I think we've just seen is that there is a need for a cut down editor, a bit like what the experience that you get with LinkedIn. But there's also the need, if you need it, for a full editor. There's just a need to understand the different requirements of different groups and people in the word.
I think that the right approach to this is actually to give, I would create it in 3 layers. Basically, you need a page builder. Great. You have Gutenberg. Let it be the page builder. Awesome. You want to designs? Awesome stuff. You need a content creator. Great. You use maybe a simplified version of Gutenberg instead of the classic editor, which is really outdated, at this point. Yeah. But something like LinkedIn, I think they got it right, kind of down in the middle. But then what I would also add as a layer for maybe that's an idea for a plugin, but something that will take the design of Gutenberg and just simplify it and restrict it, so you're able to build it properly, but you're not able to modify this so easily or based on user roles or something like that.
Yeah, so be user roles, definitely. Yeah. And I think you lock it down. So any global elements like your headers, your footers, your widgets, whatever, they're locked down. That's
a
little padlock, really. That's all that you need.
I think your insight. We're going to continue. We're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. I'm going to let the panelists give their recommendations of the week. And panelists, and also Andrew, can you please make sure they're in the Slack and they're in a nice order. That would be really helpful, Andrew. But I'm going to let the panel, and then we're going to wrap up the podcast, but we're going to continue the discussion. We've got a couple more stories to discuss. Some of the panel are going to bail out because they've got better things to do. Hopefully, some of the panel is going to stay on, and we're going to discuss 2 more stories. Plus, we're going to comment a bit more about what Vito's just said, which I thought was amazingly insightful. And thank you for that, Vito. And we're going to continue the discussion, which you are only be able to view if you join the WP-Tonic Mastermind Facebook group. If you join that, you'll be able to see the bonus discussion on, and please join, because we like you to be members of the tribe. So let's go on to our recommendations. I better say mine first. My one, it's really for if you're an Animator user, but if you're looking to develop, they've got a free version and a paid. The paid is amazing, but if you're looking to set up documentation or support documentation in WordPress, you really should look at this, and it's called Better Docs, and it's from betterdocs.co. It's a great add-on. It's really focused if you're using Animator, but it does a fantastic job. That's mine. So, Spencer, what's your recommendation to the tribe?
So for anybody who does follows my advice, I always suggest WordPress provides you a free way to track users with marketing automation, but only if they're logged in. So depending on what plugins you're using, it oftentimes they'll get registered, but not logged in. So this plugin is called Auto Login New User After Registration. I love how it tells you what it is, and it's got a lot of 5 stars, but it essentially does that. Whatever the method of registering, it could be, you know, one of the plugins or a function, as soon as the person's in, you can basically, you know, direct them where they need to go. And typically it might be my account dashboard. So it fills a really nice gap. It's a free plugin, and it does stuff you can do out of WooCommerce if you're using WooCommerce, but for some people they're not. Like, for example, maybe they're using an Elementor registration form or some other Gravity form, and now you want to log the person in without making them go to their email. So it's a very useful tool.
Right, Jonathan, if you can place it in the chat, and then Andrew will place it in the Slack, or you can email your recommendation, but please do either, Jonathan. Have you got a recommendation for the tribe?
I do. I recommend objectcache.pro, and it's a good example of both what I love and find frustrating about the WordPress ecosystem. It's a fantastic little gem that if you didn't know about it, you just wouldn't know that it was there. So I like that you do this. It gives us a chance. One of the ways that we make up for this in the WordPress ecosystem is to let each other know what we find. So
yeah, so put the link into chat, and Andrew will put it in the Slack channel. Do that straight away, Jonathan. Heather, have you got a recommendation for the tribe?
I do, as we're going into another year of virtual workspaces. Yeah. There is a great virtual tool called spot.xyz, where it's kind of like Sococo or Remo or these other ones, but you get to create a really cool different virtual workspace for your team, and you can run events in there, and it's just a neat little virtual format that you can use, like spatial chat or something. But it's cool, and it's a beta, and you should try it out.
That sounds great. Put it into the Slack channel, Heather. John, have you got a recommendation for the tribe?
Yeah, this one is for a podcast called the SEO Rant, and a particular episode from friend of the show, Jamar Ramos, from CrunchyLink.
Yeah,
and
CrunchyLink, a fantastic, what a name for agency, CrunchyLink. Yeah.
But it's an episode called Making a Better SEO Community for Cooperation. And the SEO community has some similar problems to the WordPress community, but it also has some unique problems. And this is addressing some of those. So if you're familiar with that, just come and check it out. It's a good, positive episode.
Right.
Drop the link in the chat, please.
Put it
I
into
will.
put it in Slack.
It's in Slack. I will put it in the chat.
Yes.
If it's in
Vito.
Slack, it's fine.
Vito, have
like
you got a recommendation for the tribe?
I do. I'd like to recommend a tool that we started using recently, which is called The Script. What it does, it basically simplifies the whole huge pain of editing videos and transcribing them and getting like captions and all of those kind of stuff. It uses really smart mechanisms to, first of all, take all of the video and transcribe it into text. So that allows you to edit the video just by deleting pieces of text. So you just read it and remove parts of it, and then just cleans it up. Removes all of the M's, all the stuff that I love doing. And it's just an awesome tool.
By the way, this is the one that is the tool that they had a beta a year or two ago, and I participated and gave them about 100 hours of my audio, and they're the ones that have a virtual Spence voice.
Really?
I hear they're working now with Boston Robotics to use it as the voice of that dog with the arm head.
So, I'm sure automatic
to go open doors at automatic. But in all reality, when you combine this with the that thing I showed you a couple months back with the thing that takes a photograph and it recreates the motion, you can see all the pieces are coming together. I mean, you've got the artificial voice that's exactly the dead person. You've got the AI robot. You've got the facial animation. Right. I mean, it's Terminator 2 coming on fast.
Oh, well, thanks. Make sure it's in the Slack channel, the WP-Tonic Slack channel, Vito, or put it into chat. So
it is. I've done it already.
So, Andrew, have you got a recommendation for the tribe?
Yeah, well, it goes. It's because I've only just remembered. I was going to recommend Waheed.io because obviously that's Vito and I doing that sort of thing together, and Heather then recommended Spots. So there you go. I'm echoing somewhere.
Yeah, you are. You're echoing. Echo. All right.
But no, I've got a recommendation, which is Woo Builder. Customize the WooCommerce product page, and it's by poodlepress.com.
Yes, Poodle. Great people. They've been on the show. I forgot the founder of it, but he's a great guy as well, based in the UK. So, panel. So, Spencer, how can people find out more about you, your thoughts, and what you're up to?
WPLaunchify.com.
And Jonathan, how can people find out about what you're thinking about and your thoughts?
JonathanWold.com.
That's great. Heather, how can people find out more about you and what you're thinking at the present moment?
Heatheriel.com and Heatheriel everywhere.
Well, I love that. Heather everywhere. John Locke, how can people find out more about you and your latest thoughts?
LockdownSEO.com, and YouTube channel has a similar name. Just search for it.
Yes. Vito, how can people find out more about you and your latest thoughts and opinions?
Check out atarim.io or join our Facebook group. We have a great group for freelancers and agencies. And on Twitter, Vito Peleg.
That's great. And Andrew, how can people find out more about you and your latest thoughts?
Well, you can go to thisisandrewpalmer.com and at Arnie Palmer on Twitter.
Like I say, listeners and viewers, if you want to hear more, we're going to discuss the next two stories, and plus we're going to continue the discussion for the next 15, 20 minutes, which you'll only be able to view on the WP-Tonic Mastermind Facebook group page. Please join us there and become a member of the tribe. It's where all the discussion and all the naughtiness, you will find even more naughtiness on that group. We'll be back next week with another great panel, another great set of stories. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. Right, panel, we're going to continue. Those that want to bail out, you can bail out if you want. If you've got better things to do. Hopefully, some of you are going to stay on, and you better do. We're going to go straight in to story 5. And
Jonathan, I'm going to have to bail. However,
Yeah.
However, this seems like this is the exclusive content. This is where the gloves really come off, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, I'm really nasty to automatic.
Yeah,
Oh,
you should really stick around, Jonathan. Well,
You need to. You make your ears burn. You know, I'm on their death list actually.
Oh my goodness.
They actually want to kill me. Actually,
I highly doubt that.
yeah,
However,
yeah.
I have to take my kids to school, so
You do.
fare thee well.
Well,
See
thank
ya.
you so much, Jonathan. Right.
yeah.
So on to story 5. Why did you start using WordPress? It's from the Tavern. So Spencer, what did you think of this from the Taverlock? You know, what did you think of this?
Yeah, this is a fun one. I think everybody came to their own version of the same story, but you know, I like that he got a lot of comments that are reflective of the fact that it was a well-written story. But for myself, I mean, I came to WordPress because I was dropping in that 2006 era when social networks were starting independent of Facebook. And then when Facebook started to take on that stuff, WordPress just became interesting. And the fact is, we've talked about it before, it was the only place at the time that seemed logical you can make stuff without previously being a developer. And it was also at the time when remember the hosts would have all those free PHP, you know, scripts that you could get to in your cPanel. And I was like, oh, what's this one? And what's this one? B2, what's this? And next thing you know, the themes came out and it became a little easier. And then I was sucked in like a good mystery novel.
Yeah. What do you reckon, John?
I started using WordPress. Like I was going to school, learning how to do web design, and I kept hearing about all these different CMSs, like Drupal, Joomla, and WordPress, pretty much. And that was one that I settled on using because I kept hearing people say that Drupal was like a really steep learning curve at that time. And around 2011, I think is when I got into it. I can't believe it's been that long, really. But I've been using it pretty much ever since then, and it's been awesome. So
yeah, my story was that I was developing and I was using the Expression Engine because I just didn't like Joomla, and Drupal just looked like a pain in the arse. So I really got big into the Expression Engine community, and I was using that. And then I was having discussions, and I was doing some business with old Kim Doll, and she said, look, mate. And I was talking about what, I was big in the Expression Engine, and she just laughed at me. She said, Expression Engine? She said, you need to get involved in WordPress. There's no much feature in Expression Engine. And she was always a bit opinionated, old Kim. I think she's even worse than me and Spencer in some ways. Yeah, and that's how I started my journey, a long, winding journey, to say the least. Vito, what did you think of this article?
That was, it's nice to see some stories, and I read the comments as well. I can share mine, how I started, which was, I started with HTML, CSS back in the GeoCities days. Deploying the code in the 1 hour that of internet that my parents allowed me to connect to, because it was taken over the phone. So a few years after, WordPress grabbed my attention as a way of building. I did this little course about SEO and generating revenue online, and all kinds of stuff like this. And they used WordPress as the tool. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, I think that this is going to be my thing from now. And yeah, 1,000 websites later, there I am.
There we go. What about you, Andrew? What's your reaction
Well,
to the article and the story?
I was in printing and, full color, lots of big Speedmaster, 5-color Speedmasters in there. And I saw the end of printing. So I went to college, night school, and learned HTML, Flash. CSS didn't exist then because it was so long ago, I think. And then I was also learning PHP. So I actually built my first website, which was completely PHP, with, you know, just controlling everything with tables and all kinds of stuff. And I've forgotten more than I learned. And then I got into CMSs, and I went to Expression Engine and Drupal. And then I found Drupal quite easy, actually. It's quite logical. But anyway, and we were building quite big, heavy database-driven modular websites as well. And then I went to Joomla, and I thought that was amazing. And then I got hacked, and my mate Mark Copeman, who's a phenomenal entrepreneur, just said to me, look, get into WordPress. And I drove him mental for about a month, ringing him up saying, I don't even know how to put an index page in. I don't know where to do this. I don't know where to do that. And, you know, thankfully for him, he endured my ultimate abuse, you know, because I've just phoned him all kinds of hours of the day and night and weekends and saying, I can't do this. And it's just really frustrating. And he's just so patient with me. And now, you know, with page builders and with, you know, a little bit of PHP knowledge and a little bit of CSS knowledge, you know, I can get by. It's pretty cool.
I have to ask Kim onto the show. She's living in, I think she's living in Costa Rica now. So I have to say she can come in on the beach, can't she? She can zoom in, and we would be really jealous. Got a comment here from Alex D. Bardo. I'm sorry to butcher your surname.
Borba.
But thank you there, Spencer. I can always rely on you to clarify my pronunciation. People find it complicated to use Gutenberg to publish content. For instance, I have adapted to it since I came out, and have moved over 5,000 articles of the classic editor and did not find it complicated. Well, that's great for you. Dropping animators to use the visual, create my own site. However, I find it odd that WooCommerce, for instance, is way behind it. What's your comment on Alex's comments, Spencer?
I know Alex. He's a customer and a fan of WooCommerce and launch flows and other things. And Alex's comment is legit, as I was hinting at. When you start to play with it, WooCommerce has got a very cautious approach. So it actually blocks Gutenberg on the products page, which is funny because I mentioned to Andrew, he recommended PoodlePress's plugin. PoodlePress's plugin is the only plugin that right now allows you to modify the WooCommerce product page with Gutenberg. And it ironically was something that I'm already built into this next release of launch flows, because we were doing the product checkout page. And it's interesting because you don't think about it until you use it. And then all of a sudden you're in Gutenberg, but then you go to a product page and WooCommerce forces it into Classic. So both PoodlePress and my plugin put you in the option of using Gutenberg and so on and so forth. And I looked at the notes of the developers. The reason they did that is for a lot of the stuff we talked about today, which is you need to add a bunch of stuff into Gutenberg, into the meta boxes, to do stuff that's already built into Classic. For example, should this product be displayed inside of the shop pages and the archive page and all those meta box extras are not available through Gutenberg. You have to hook them back in. And it's like, that's the shit show I'm talking about. If you accept it's a shit show, you go, all right, fine, I'll figure out a way around it. But you have to go digging around in the kitchen drawers. Where's that bottle opener? And where did I leave my car keys? And, you know, put it all back together in a cohesive way, which ironically, as an entrepreneur, for me, is an opportunity, because there's a lot of people that want to do stuff that have this, like, how the hell am I going to do it problem? But if you came into WordPress as a cohesive platform, you might be wondering what is going on. I'm bouncing all over the place. So,
anybody else want to comment on Alex's comment? Anybody who got any
I haven't
extra?
seen it. I'm sad. Where is it? Is your comment? Would you what? In the comments?
It's in the chat. It's in the
Yeah,
chat.
it's basically saying that it doesn't understand why it's complicated for people to use Gutenberg. It's not that complicated for us. And really, it's also designed for end users eventually to be able to create Wix-like and Squarespace type of websites with it. So it should be easy. But really, design is a skill. It's a profession. It doesn't just happen. It's not a matter of not being able to use it. It's just that it's going to create overwhelm when there is too many options, which is what we want. We want too many options because that's the fun of it. But for clients, that can be a bit of a nightmare. But also, they just don't know what's up. You know, they might take the picture and put this into like just stretch the picture over a piece of text, or somehow figure out a way to do position absolute without knowing how to do position absolute, and it messes the whole thing up. Just creates additional stress, and I don't want that for my clients. You know, I just want the website to work.
Yeah, that's what
I'll add this, because like I work on other people's sites that have been built by other people quite often. And I'm working on one now, doing a bunch of stuff for a client, and it's a Gutenberg site. And a simple thing, I'll give you an example. So like they're embed like a certain YouTube video right here. Okay, cool. Now they want to change it. And when I went to go change it, I can't just delete that block or edit that block. I like hover over it, nothing happens. I try and delete it, nothing happens. I look up like a shortcut to delete that block, nothing happens. So, I mean, those are like the bugs that are kind of like ongoing with Gutenberg. That it is a lot of struggle for some people, I guess.
This is ridiculous. This is a 3-year fucking project, and we're still.
I know.
Oh, what a heap of fucking crap!
Now I can't remember where somebody left.
Fucking.
Well, bugs are part of development.
Bugs are part of
3
it.
year, 1,000 fucking staff, and 3 years in,
it's
and
not,
we're still talking about
1,000. Yeah, but you still find bugs everywhere.
The great leader needs a boot up his arse. That's what he needs.
Jonathan, calm yourself down, love. You know,
you can't say, Jonathan, that your websites have no bugs. It's just part of the building process. And as you're building
we're talking about something really very basic here, not a bug.
No, it's not.
But why didn't they? I don't understand, guys. I don't understand. With all the resources of the volunteers, because Gutenberg is still a WordPress.org option, right? So there's no budget. It's got zero budget. Technically, Jonathan.
This is this whole shell game that the great leader plays. Right? And it's just a load of nonsense. It's just a load of nonsense, Andrew.
All right. But if you don't let people explain, you can't get it. But get my point, right? My point is that technically it is a zero budget operation, right? But technically it is. So therefore, there's a great excuse there. We're throwing all the resources that we can spare at it. We got ahead of Gutenberg, whatever. If it was a commercial operation, it would have been built separate to WordPress. They would have rebuilt WordPress from the ground up only to have blocks and make sure that it's backward compatible. That's how you build software to make sure. Joomla, for instance, literally every single new version of Joomla is not backward compatible, right? Imagine being a Joomla developer and seeing Joomla 4.5. And you've got Joomla 2, you've got Joomla 3, you've got Joomla 4, you are living a nightmare. So what's happening is they are trying to make the bed while you are still in it. And it's really difficult, right? Because they don't want to wake you up because you'll be scary and horrible.
I see where you're coming from, Andrew. I think there's a little bit of truth in what you're saying. But what do you reckon, Spencer? I want to get on to story 6, but I'm with Andrew
on this. I'm totally with Andrew on this, and I mentioned it earlier. I'm not sure why you're so. I'm not sure why you're so adamant that there's like a conspiracy. What is going on is that literally, as he said,
it sounds good, doesn't it?
Well, maybe, but it sounds like you're off your meds. This is what it sounds like. It's like that. This is a situation where there's half of the internet is using WordPress.
You got rude. I don't believe in UFOs are running this.
Look, we've talked about other things they've done that were really stupid that like had reasons, like when they forced updates for certain plugins that had a security reason, but then not others, and why certain things get kicked out of the repository. There's some things that have political undertones. This is not one of them. I mean, quite frankly, this is just, we can't alienate even a fraction of the people using WordPress because there's too many people with too many things at stake. And we're not doing, God forbid we become Joomla, because Joomla, you had to compile every update of your website, as I recall. And just that alone was mind numbing, but like to develop for that platform. So WordPress, again, is like that long-term relationship with somebody you had an arranged marriage with. And you realize like it's too late to go back and start over. And I'm going to work with this. And that's it. Just get over yourself.
I love you, Spencer. And I know you love me as well. So there we go. On to story 6. I just thought this is fun because I can just, anybody wants a comment, I'm going to just put it to the panel in this bonus content. So on to story 6. Google search complete rollout for link spam update. What did you think of this one, John? Our resident SEO expert.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that they kind of said that they had done before, but I mean, they're always refining it. So allegedly, like basically, it's if you have an affiliate link, it has to be no followed, or if you have a link that they think is paid or from some type of PBN. They've been refining this for like 7 years. People have just gotten trickier with how they do PBNs. They're a little bit more complicated.
This goes back to the Expedia days when the Expedia SEO guru Martin, whatever his name was, they discovered he was buying all the links, and all of a sudden everybody went to zero. All the newspapers went down 90% and stuff like that. But it's something that John will agree with me on this. It's something that needs to be done. Right, it needed to be looked at. You've got rel canonicals or whatever it is, rel sponsorship, rel, whatever it is. And as long as we are, and this is where we need honesty and integrity in the web world, and we often don't get it in the SEO world, which is something that I was really concentrating on in the early years. I happen to be quite good at it, and I've decided not to be too busy on that side. Because there are so many cowboys out there giving such bad advice, and we used to do it for experiments. We used to do Google bombs. We could get a website number one with using a Google bomb for 24 hours, and then you would never see that website again because Google said that's a bomb. You're banned. So, but those are people that that still exist today. You go onto Reddit and you say, anybody, I need a bit of black hat going on, and you can get it if you want it. If you just want a quick Google bomb going out there, you can still do it. But the point is that we haven't, like, web designers don't have an association. SEO guys don't have an association where you are actually qualified to do it. If you do the Google Webmasters course, you can say, I've done the Google Webmasters course and here's my certificate, right, John?
Yeah.
And you can do the AdWords course and you can say, Google approved or whatever, because you've got a certificate. But we are trying to control millions of people around the world from not advertising. And they've got the same problem on Instagram and the same thing on Facebook and the same thing on Twitter. You have to, if you are advertising a product, you have to put #ad, or you have to say sponsored post. And people are still not doing it. I'm seeing stuff from minor celebrities in the UK where they say, I really enjoyed this drink at this place. It's so obviously a sponsored link that they'll get banned off Twitter, or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm great. I'm pleased for it. I'm really, really pleased for it. It's great.
Well, like I said, your point now is it makes me recall something. If you look at, how did Neil Patel get so big? Which is when people say, who is an SEO expert? Like, 3 names that will always come up will be Neil Patel, Brian Dean, who is a protege of Neil Patel, and Rand Fishkin. Those are like the 3 names that you'll always see. But Neil Patel became big by doing something like that. He'd pay, it wasn't Instagram because I think it was before that, but he'd pay like models to write stuff like on their body, like who is Neil Patel, or hold up signs like. And so
he's a total dude. Let's be frank about it. He's a total douchebag, isn't he?
In the SEO community, like itself, there isn't a ton of respect. But the normals, but to the normies, to like the regular people out there, it's like, oh, his advice is good because I see his name everywhere. Look, with link placement and links, there's always going to be things happening behind the scenes where there's some sort of value exchange going on, and Google's not going to be able to like really detect all of them. What they want to do is they want to get rid of the worst. Yeah,
just to say, well, Google's a strange mixture of rather old technology when it comes to link, judging the value of a link. It's rather old, but they seem to have invested all their money and their high tech on language identification links. That's where they're focused. So to me, it seems a strange concoction of old technology with bleeding edge technology that Google's using.
They have different teams that work on different parts of the algorithm. That's why.
Yeah. It seems a strange concoction of old and the bleeding. So, what's your view on this, Vito?
Sorry, I zoned out completely.
Yeah, I can tell you were zoning out completely. Were we boring you to tears? Or
I don't even remember what the topic is about. Really.
All right, there we go. That happens to be regular, Vito. So, Spencer,
I work with this guy every day.
Yeah, well, there we go.
Feel sorry for me.
I have my concerns, Andrew, but that's your business. Spencer, what's your view on this particular story?
Remember that time you had Rand Fishkin on the show, and
he's coming back next month,
and I told Rand what I really think Google's whole purpose is.
Yeah, that went down well with him.
Rand, I really like Rand, and I figured it out. But like Rand had that look on his face, like, how did you let this guy on your show? Well, I kind of am going to stick with that opinion here. This is like so obvious, but so late in the game as to wonder what the hell, because for some reason they've allowed it to be forever that some normal person is supposed to figure out to use, relative equals no follow on affiliate links, but yet nobody does or has. And now apparently it's so urgent in 2021, like what is it, 30 years later or something, that now they have to, why don't we have a relative equal sponsor tag? Why don't we have a relative equal affiliate tag? And I say to myself, when something takes that long to do something so obvious, I wonder what the reason was. And maybe it was because Google was benefiting the whole time from this chicanery that was going on. And I think that's the answer here, is that some pressures or powers that be have made it necessary to tweak this. But at the same time, now imagine you're an SEO person. John is better qualified than I. And now you got to go back to all your clients and say, well, they sort of say that no follow is still good, but we probably got to go in and change all of our SEO plugin settings to do this and that. And it's like constantly being told, up is down and down is up and left is right. And you're just constantly being told by Google to change things. For what?
Can I tell you why?
I mean, I suppose the answer is like Rand said, to improve the search results for people.
No, it's because they want people to be afraid of a penalty. So you tell them where the paid links are, and then that'll train their AI to figure out where they are. Yeah.
I'm on board with that explanation because that aligns with my view of what's going on here. Just like when we talked about AMP for mobile, how, my God, if you don't subscribe to AMP and pray to its God, then your site will disappear from anybody's mobile phone. But, it doesn't really happen that way. So whatever, Google. Because the answer in the comments is pretty accurate. It says Google can do whatever it wants. And that's true because only Gabriel Weinberger has anything even close to giving an alternative to Google for search. I mean, that's it. DuckDuckGo.
I just want to wrap up with Vito's insight about what should be. Vito's just woken up because so I just want to wrap it up with, because I thought Vito had a fantastic insight about what should that we need. It should be really in 4 tiers. Where if you want to do full editing, you can, but then if you just want the LinkedIn experience, you can. Then when you got the little lock on sections. To me, it's so obvious. Yet we're in the third year, coming into the fourth year, and nothing.
Well, to be honest, no one else has done it either.
No, that's true. That is honesty. But what Angie? What was your response? Because to what Vito said during the podcast part of the show there.
What about the role editor and making sure everything's locked down? Well, we because I'm a Divi user now. Shush. You can pretty much lock down different sections.
You can?
Yeah, you can.
How can you live with yourself?
Shut up. Divi's great. 750,000 users say shut up.
There's loads of people join use all sorts of shit. Doesn't mean it's any good, does it?
But you didn't know this. In Divi, you can lock down parts of a page.
Right.
You can lock down the whole page.
You need to if you're using that shit.
And it has its own role editor. So you can actually block pages from certain users, right? So you can use that admin eyes or whatever the plugin is and lock down other people. But Divi already does what Vito and I want Gutenberg to do. So it ain't going to be hard, because all automatic guys need to look at, WordPress guys need to look at is Divi and say, how do they do that? They're using React. There must be a command to be able to lock down a module, a section, and a row. And I promise you, it is the way forward to be able to lock down stuff within.
It's so easy. Page. All you need is like pointer events none, and
exactly.
That's enough,
Exactly. But it is actually padlock on it. You just lock it down. You say you right mouse on it and go lock this module.
Yeah. So what do you
add a class? That's it.
Yeah. So what do you reckon of what Vito had to say, Spencer?
About Divi?
No, about what Vito said in the podcast.
Spencer's zoned out right now.
No, I mean about locking it down. I mean, yeah, the situation we're in right now is that, as I've been repeating myself a bit, I suppose, that we're in a dynamic space. And as an entrepreneur, I really appreciate how dynamic things are. Almost everything we've talked about today represents the problem. We kind of had a nice ride from 2006 to 2014. Then the page builders came along. From 2014 to 2021 was another era. We're now entering into a new era where, I said it on your show yesterday or whatever, it's like the snow globe of the internet is being shaken up on WordPress. And everything is potentially going to be different for a lot of people, which means for some people they'll be losers, or they'll lose what they had, and for other people there will be new opportunities to solve pain. And I see that as this opportunity, but I don't find it particularly useful to whine about this. I also would say I
don't think we're whining. I'm just saying.
No, I don't mean whining like complaining. I'm saying I don't think it's useful to whine about it in the sense that it's like saying, man, those damn robots and the super cool computers and stuff. It's like, this is the exciting stuff, not the painful stuff. This is the stuff that one dreams about, because you're not living in a one-horse town your whole life and nothing ever changes.
Is that the stuff? Is that the stuff you're dreaming about? Is it?
Listen. I've just found that you can actually lock. You can lock blocks.
Lock what? Sorry?
You can lock blocks in Gutenberg.
I will say about the Gutenberg thing that I'm in the process right now of releasing native blocks and so forth. And the comment in that other article, which was accurate, is that it's a bit of an even micro-focused shit show between how blocks are created. What I envision is happening is that somebody will build an intermediary tool. Gutenberg blocks for ACF Pro is similar to that, or there's lazy blocks that essentially take the PHP world that we live in today and turn it into the result that Gutenberg needs as blocks without anybody having to do the React and Composer and all the other nonsense in between. I think that's the tool we're waiting for. And if they get that tool, they can put that into the WordPress interface natively, and then you kind of have some magic happening, because you can.
Yeah, at the moment, there's a code solution. I've put a link in. I will put it in the newsletter as well.
That's you got to dive into the code and do that.
So we need it in core, right? So it's not unattainable. If
no, it's easy. It's really easy.
The guys just read that article. They could say, right, well, we can actually build this into the blocks. We'll just lock them. Right mouse, lock this block. It's not hard.
I haven't asked John, but have you got anything, or can I start wrapping up this part, John, or do you want to say something?
No, wrap it up.
I just want to say to the listeners and viewers that obviously Heather got a little bit annoyed with me when I said that Sheryl Sandberg was a witch. I didn't really want to use that term as a derogative term for women in general. I just want to make that clear. But I do want to make this clear. I consider Sheryl to be the worst of the worst, and this is the reason why. Is that Mark Zuckerberg is just a psychopath. He's just an honest psychopath that just cares about money. But he's totally honest.
Stop.
He's totally honest.
Why do you do this, Jonathan?
You have to stop.
I'm going to do it.
I'm calling for an intervention. I really am. I'm going to call for an intervention because while it's fair to me to say I'm the most hated guy in WordPress automatic, blah, 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 I'm telling you, it's no good for you. It's no good for the show. It's no good for any of us where you keep going on these ad hominem comments about people. Like, you can comment and be critical of anybody's actions, but this show, you've gone on like 3 or 4 ad hominem attacks and slightly misogynistic.
I'm going to keep acting because it's the truth.
You've got to knock it off because you're dragging down the rest of us with you. Okay?
This is a man.
I can't be on a show where you're saying stuff.
I cannot believe you're saying this to me. This is a
But I'm saying there's no benefit.
I've had over 20 emails sent to me about your remarks.
And that's fair. But you're talking now about like just saying
these are
this
public...
person, that person. Talk about what they did. And that's fair. Don't talk about the person.
If you let me, I'm going to. Now,
why at the end of this long show are you going off on a rant about Zuckerberg now?
Because he's really entertaining.
It's not.
Listen, folks, you ain't going to hear this sort of stuff on any other podcast.
No, when it comes to Sheryl Sandberg, she is the worst of the worst because she tries to wrap. If you let me finish.
No, you can't finish because you are slagging people off. Stop it. Stop it immediately.
My show,
I will leave this room. But you are not. Do not slag anybody else off. It's rude,
please,
it's inappropriate, and it's not proper.
They don't want to listen, folks. But I will add my comments to the newsletter. Put it that way. I will add a little bit to the newsletter, which you should sign up for at WP-Tonic newsletter, and I will.
Paul is having a ball. You see the comments from Paul?
Oh yeah, Spencer. You're
right,
just this guy. Paul.
Listen, I got this right. Paul better be careful because he knows that I was on with Nathan when he wasn't there one time, and he was on this show. So Paul, watch out! I'm coming back over the other side of the ocean.
This guy,
and I'll be swearing up a storm over there in London time.
To get a lecture from Spencer Forum about insulting people, I've got over 20 emails from certain organisations and individuals complaining, and I got a cease and desist formal lawyer letter about your fucking comments, Spencer. That was
you never shared it with me.
And for me to have to put up with you saying that to me is fucking ridiculous. Spencer.
I don't think I'm alone right now in saying
absolutely fucking ridiculous.
There's no benefit in slagging off or pissing on anybody's shoes.
You pissed off everybody in back the automatic, so why not?
Automatic fine. Zuckerberg, no.
Right.
Not today.
Right, this has been a blast. I've really enjoyed it, folks. I think we'll keep to this format because I've enjoyed it so much. We'll see you next week for another great WP. You got something to say, Andrew?
Yeah. Just the comments in this WP-Tonic podcast and the views are of the individuals themselves and not WP-Tonic.
And not the guest.
Me.
So
Oh,
true.
me.
All right. Well,
Everybody point towards Jonathan.
Jonathan.
The views are of the host who's
Yeah.
speaking, not of the guests.
yeah.
Oh, God.
I love you, Cheryl, you fucking witch.
Oh,
Oh, God. All right, I'll see you later,
I'm
folks.
going goodbye.
See you later,
Goodbye.
bye.